times, for a few years actually. It is a water sewer infrastructure, strictly a typo on the agenda. But the update is the paperwork is finally done. We'll be able to put that out for RFP. Counselor, I think you received the last document as recent as today.
Yeah, there's still a few more documents that have to be submitted, but we're very close to getting it done.
Okay.
Just
based on our last phone call with Austin, that was the
yes,
big one there,
big one.
And you're wrapping that up.
Yes.
Okay, Counselor.
Two questions. One, with the documents you have, was that holding up the RFP? That's the first question. Second question, we had an engineer on there. What did we do with that?
Well, the engineer is still involved. Our former city attorney, David Linedecker, who did resign, did agree to complete this project and whatever else we may need him to assist with in the transition and that sort of thing. So yeah, he is a part of, and he put work in on this from the beginning. So yes, he'll be paid from that as well.
And yes, to answer your question, I've been waiting on, we've been working with the city engineer because I have to sign off on title, that you have clean title. And I have to do a certification that says I have reviewed the title. So when I came on board, there was no title. And so I had a title report run. David Linedecker just gave me this today, sent it over. I met with him last week, which should show hopefully clean title for the whole property. I will sign a certification that says so. We will send that to EDA. And that is, I think, the last piece of paper they need from us.
And there was a big issue with EDA regarding the title, because they just wanted to make sure before that $1 million was rolled out that even though we're doing the work in the easement, that there was no issue with
any
the
private
easements
property.
and properties and that sort of thing. So, but again, we've been talking about it, now we're here. So that infrastructure on our eastern border is about to happen, and a lot of good things should come from that. And those new water and sewer lines will, in essence, loop the city's water. And what that means to all of us who live in the city is, while we have a superior water rating now and have had for several years, even prior to me coming in, the quality of the water just gets better when there's no ends. When it's looped, it's just kind of constantly moving. So little sediment that's naturally in water doesn't get to settle because the water is moving. And the new sewer lines will not hurt the eastern residents of the city as well, because we've had a lot of sewer infrastructure breaks, and these new lines will last for a very long time. But unless council has any other questions on that, that's my update on that. Departmental reports, administration, Ms. Dickey.
I would just like to say and ask that you guys, you notice that Mr. Johnson, J.J. Johnson, is not here. He's been hospitalized for a little while, so just to keep your prayers for him and his family. As you know, they recently lost their daughter, so just going forward, if we could hold them up in prayer and get JJ back to us pretty quickly. For financial, I did include his report. He did send me that, so it is there for you guys to review. He said if you have any questions, just to be sure, give him a call, and he'd be happy to answer your questions.
And an email would be better. He's a little weak based on what what he's dealing with. Anyway, he's a little weak. So if council does want to contact him about anything, his brother helped with, brother and partner helped with putting the report together. So we have our May report on time, and you just have a little bit more time to peruse it and what have you, but we will keep them in prayer. Fortunately, the most recent news as of yesterday evening is that he is getting better. They found what it was, and now they're treating it, and it is reversing, if you will. So that's a real good sign. He's feeling much better than he was several days ago. Yes, Councilman, did you have a question? Okay. Yes.
This is
Councilman
administration. I guess this is the best place to, council voted for an item to be on the agenda. Well, several items at our last meeting, and they're not currently on the agenda. Is there gonna be some explanation, or are we gonna get something in writing on why, if council voted for something to be on the agenda? And Mr. Kerwin, could you also give us a written document? We want to start documenting what now people are saying, so we have in writing, so we say if this is the reason, we don't have that. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, let me address that. The first thing that happened was Bureau Veritas, Miss Darnell Rogers, she had a grandson or daughter who, was it a grandson, Chris, or daughter?
Granddaughter.
Granddaughter. And her daughter, well, the granddaughter had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck twice. And she dropped everything, as I would hope any of us would, and she went to see about that. The other piece was, council has been requesting that the developer of Prince Hall Apartments come to the meeting, and they actually were on agenda. They're working through their fire thing. Mr. Herschel was going on vacation. Did he leave today or he leaves tomorrow?
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, real close though. So they asked to wait, even though they don't have to be here, they have agreed to come and give council an update. But because they're trying to get that project going, they asked if it can be gone to the next 2 weeks. So a combination, because I hadn't spoken with Mr. Chris, but in being in touch with Ms. Rogers and them, that's why it's not on agenda. It's no insight. It's just an emergency with one, and she was coming until that happened for the last meeting that we wound up not having. But the other was that, but I can assure you that Panther Hill Apartments is planning to come in 2 weeks. And again, there's no requirement that they come, but they have no problem coming and give the city. Turns out their position was they wanted to get something done in our city before they can, and show you, if you will, the work, the commitment they had to investing in Prairie, and then they're coming to the city to share with you what is going on and answer council's questions. I hope between the emergency and, in a sense, 2 emergencies, but hoping that's satisfactory for council, but that's what happened, and that's what we're going to do for the next meeting. Yes, sir.
2 things. First thing was, in terms of having the people from Panther Hills, a lot of the concern just came from because there was questions. And as you know, city council, we feel like whenever there's question not only that we have, but the citizens have, that someone should be able to come to talk about it, give some type of documentation. And it's been pretty prevalent for a good amount of meetings that, when we ask people, to come and speak, it's always nobody there, so the item always getting tabled, or it becomes argument on what's really happening. And the thing was, I had a meeting with one of the Panther Hills project. I had a meeting with one of the Panther Hills project managers, and he stated that he would come to the meeting off of your request. If you allow him to come, then he would come, because he said he was going to come just off of regular city council members' request. So I just think that right there should, one, give you, reason to have them come, because I'm personally asking him, and 2, and this is a little bit different, but as the citizen just saw, we just got the packet, just this meeting, y'all just aligned us that 2 Solomon was going to talk about last meeting, but in terms of efficiency, I know that we're supposed to get things 72 hours or the agenda has to be posted 72 hours, right? That is just the legality of it. However, for efficiency, I feel like some of the information we should be getting way before that 72 hours so that we can look at it and that we can come to a meeting with a knowledge of these things, because when you're constantly getting things right on that Friday when people are going home, Saturday, Sunday, they're going out, to be with their family, you can't ask the right people questions because they're technically not at their job. So, there's a reluctance to get these things done. So just in terms of efficiency, so city council can be efficient moving forward, I hope that we can, especially things that are going to be on next meeting. Now, I understand if it's like last second, you got to hurry up and put it on there, but things that beforehand, a week in advance, like, let us know, have a packet already ready so that we can come with the knowledge ready to make decisions on the information.
No problem. Now, keep in mind, regarding Panther Hill Apartments, since it's been such an issue, 2 meetings ago, when there were several statements to make them, for the city to issue a cease and desist, which we have no grounds to do, because they haven't done anything wrong. Council shared with you that there is no requirement for a private developer or anyone else for us to make them come in front of council just because you have questions. These are business people. We just because we're up here doesn't mean we can make Mr. Richard come up here just because we want to talk to him. No, hold on. Let's hold the corner. That piece there, in spite of, I spoke with them based on council's request, and even though they don't have to, they were going to. Ms. Dickey, weren't they on the agenda before? See, they were on agenda. The only concern I have is there's some feeling of we're doing something mysterious. If it was mysterious, it would not have been on my mayor's report for 2 years. Okay? If there was something I didn't want you to know, I would not put it in writing as it's on these reports. But as I stated, they have agreed, although they don't have to. They do plan to come at the next meeting, but they have a project that hundreds to 1,000 plus people are counting on, and we just shared with you that the fire inspector is about to go on vacation. I spoke to, you need to hear this, I spoke to Eric Vinson, who turns out he's in Fort Worth, and his nearest fire inspectors are in Beaumont and Corpus Christi. So the fire inspector deal is a very small operation. So when they have to move on this thing, I contacted Assistant Chief Bordeaux, and him and actually Mr. Glover were there yesterday on Sunday to check some piping, because our assistant fire chief and I'm kind of, well, this is the administration of the city, and you all have questions about it, and you have a right to ask those questions, so you have a right to the answers. A lot of these things, as you ask them, there's not a question I have attempted to answer. Now, you may not like the answer, and I can't help that, because even as mayor, I can't make these people do anything. The only thing that gentleman told you was not that I said don't do what a councilman says, which is kind of how that came out, is the relationship just happens to be with me because I've been working with him from the beginning and getting him to come here, and that's just the way he, in his language from, I don't know who you spoke to, he's either from Mexico or Turkey, that he shared that with you. But again, before you said that, I said they have agreed to come to the next meeting. So, are we okay? Yes, sir.
Yeah, and when I spoke to him again, there were a lot of things that he had answers for, which, when I have answers, I'm fine. The question is, when can we get these specific questions answered? I mean, specifically, like, I naturally like to ask the people that were actually doing the work, to see a clarification from their point of view, so I can get a clear understanding, which is why I'm glad appreciate you, Mr. Haber, for coming, part of Bureau Veritas. You know, we just want people like Mr. Christopher Haber here, so we can answer the question now.
Let's do that. Mr. Chris, would you come forward? Many of you have heard us mention Bureau Veritas. If you would tell us, or particularly for our council who may not know, and our residents, who you are and who Bureau Veritas is.
Okay. First off, Mayor, Council, Chris Haber, Bureau Veritas. Our company serves as a third party for building inspection departments and municipalities all over the state of Texas. So some of the smaller cities is usually our target because they don't want to have to fund a whole building inspection department with the fleet and the clothes and salaries and all that. So that's the role that we take. In this part of the area, I've got myself and one other, Donnell Rogers, and we tackle Prairie together just depending on our workload. And we get that the day before, and then we sort the work out and send everybody on their way. I know that, so that's kind of a little bit of what we do. And I think that, and I know that the apartment complex is where the questions are. So, Council, if y'all have questions for me as far as the process, or, I mean, we do the plan review in Fort Worth, which is our corporate office. So that's somebody that takes a code book, goes through it on blueprints, and makes sure that it's going to comply on paper with the codes that are in place. Once that's done, we then issue a building permit, and actually the permits are issued here at City Hall, and then it turns over to the inspectors out in the field. And so as the contractors and developers move along, they call in on a regular basis for the inspections as they get the work done, and that's when we show up. They call our Fort Worth office to schedule inspections. We get out in 24 hours, so we're out the very next day. So as long as they call it before 5 o'clock in the evening, we're there at some point the next day, just depending on our schedule.
I mean,
Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just say it.
so just so we can get clarification, because the big thing is that we just want to make sure everything is in the way it's supposed to be happening with the inspections, the apartment, how they gone throughout this process.
How did it go? Well, it's just like any large project like that. Once you get, developers and contractors build it all over the place in different municipalities, and everybody has their own little different ways of doing it, from different codes to different amendments. But so we walked this building, the first couple buildings with the contractor, and we had probably 15 or 20 of us with the different electricians and plumbers and project managers. And so we walked it. It took a while. They're 3-story buildings, but that got everybody on the same page. And so the subs and the trades that are out there right now know what we're expecting. And so they have been going along. They were a little rough at the beginning, but that's the key. That's par for the course.
So, hold on, let's rotate. Councilman Rowland?
Chris, pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming to the city. I think this is important for the citizens to get an opportunity to understand currently where we're at with Panther Hill. So you can leave here just as informed as everybody. Bureau Veritas is our third party, meaning they work for the city. They're the ones who do the inspections on the buildings, make sure they're things of that nature. Chris, there was some concerns that we received in reference to water pressure, engineering, fire hydrants. Where are we at in that process to make sure that those have been incorporated, or have those been addressed yet? And what is our process moving forward to make sure that they get incorporated?
And Mayor, you better good to answer this, but I think the assistant chief is kind of taking that role on, and so I'm kind of out of the loop on that. We don't do the infrastructure. We do the components with the inside of a house or inside that apartment building.
The gentleman I spoke of, council and residents earlier, Mr. Herschel. Okay, is it David Herschel?
Yes.
They, yeah. Okay, I like that. Okay. Mr. Herschel is a part of, and he does something separate from, he's a part of Bureau Veritas. Is Eric in, because I know Eric Vincent, and I found out him and his wife and daughter run that operation.
Right.
But are they subs with Bureau Veritas?
No.
They're employees?
They're employees.
Okay. Well, that's a part of what I was sharing, was why they couldn't be here this evening, because they wanted to stay on top of that and get as much done, because they were back and forth and finalizing that process. And because he gave them a wish list, they were trying to make sure they finished the wish list before he went on vacation. So, but the fire part and the water is a little separate from what Chris and Ms. Rogers do.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, let me finish. So, I got a text Saturday or Sunday from Assistant Fire Chief Bordeaux, and he asked if it was okay for Mr. Glover to go and assist him in checking some of the piping that Mr. Herschel oversees from the fire, water pressure, and that sort of thing. And I, of course, gave him that approval. So, from a conversation last week, I spoke with the Assistant Fire Chief, and he has quite a few licenses, which is wonderful with him being on our volunteer fire department. And I've spoken with Fire Chief Frank Jackson about us being able, separate and apart from the fire department, because people have licenses, they deserve to get paid for their work. So in looking at us needing some of the services that the assistant fire chief has licenses for, he and I are working together, and I need to get with you, Counselor, on drafting that independent contractor thing, because it'll be separate and apart from him being the assistant fire chief, and taking a look at and getting a better understanding from him of what services he can do in the city. Then we can pay him here locally and still get the work that we need, plus he's a lot more accessible than people who live an hour to 2 hours away. So evidently there's quite a few of the things that Mr. Herschel was doing, because that's why they went out there yesterday, that he can do. We just haven't had a chance to reconnect. I got to call into him and that sort of thing. But that's where we're picking up on trying to do some more of that locally, because Chris and Ms. Rogers have, they've been coming up pretty much every day or every other day.
Yeah, we're there quite a bit.
As needed. But this other critical component, these people are hours away, so we're trying to see, and if he can do that, that's like making it perfect.
Right, and just for a little clarification, we offer plan review, and then we also building codes and then fire. And so some cities have their public works department look at the infrastructure, and some don't need a building inspector, but we all are certified, and it's a unique, I mean, we're certified to look at the building, not look at the infrastructure. So that's kind of why we've got three parts of service, three different areas, and cities can choose what they want to use.
I thought previously we had only selected for Veritas to do 2. So we're saying now we're now contracting them to do 3 services. And then the other question is that, like I talked to, there are other municipalities that have a checklist for commercial development. Or how do we get a copy of this process that y'all have down pat, or commercial process?
Okay.
So not only just for us, city council, but also that if a citizen or anyone who is wanting to go through this process, they would know what you're checking for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please let the record reflect that Councilman Ramble, you got it? Good, okay, just want to be clear.
734.
Gotcha, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, we can, and I'll get working on that for next council meeting and get that to you guys. I just need to know what that date is. I think y'all said 2 weeks from today. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the...
Yes, second and fourth Monday.
Okay. And in the meantime, if there's any questions that you guys want to send to me, I can start working on that and be prepared when we walk in.
Good, good. Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
13, August 13th.
Okay, our next item would be 11, am I saying that right? No.
Oh, we're
Yeah, trying to keep right with these. Okay, Mr. Johnson's out, we discussed that, Judge is not here this evening. Chief? Police report?
You guys have my report, if you have any questions on it.
You want to speak on the thing that you were talking about earlier? What you was talking about?
the report, using city equipment, which is...
I've been advised by the attorney, we can talk about that in executive session.
Okay.
Okay.
Ordinance violations report. Ms. Williams has that, and Officer White has been doing an incredible job in lining that out with us. If you would give council and residents an update, Officer White.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and citizens of Prairie. Council, what you have is a list of the ordinances, that's violations that will be issued recently. That's just part of the list that I've started, but it is a lengthy process, but with the help of Ms. Herndon and her co-defendant over there from 4B and Tim Kerwin, our attorney, we've been getting it done. So if you have any questions.
And I want to make sure council understands this. What you're looking at is, how many items are on here? About 15 or so? This is a list. There have been numerous 10-day notices for ordinance or code violations for a variety of things that were sent out. And even though it's a 10-day notice, we've been pretty lax. It's been more like 20, under like a
I'm
month
giving
or
extended
more.
time, yes, sir, I'm giving extended time for them to come in ordinances. Some have, but the majority of them have not responded to any of them.
Okay, so these are a list of citations that will be going out, and then the folks will have to come in to our municipal court judge and explain the process. Councilman Rowland.
My question for the citizens, you don't have this list, but can you explain to us the process in which you're going through neighborhoods? So right here, I see, only one certain area. Now, there may be 2 or 3 scattered in. Are you going through, like, this week we're in Alta Vista, next week we're in Ferguson Heights?
Yes, sir, when time allows, I'm going to each neighborhood. These are some of the responses that I did get back. Some of the other neighborhoods, they have come in compliances, and they have responded to the letters. These that are here now that I haven't gotten any response from.
Could I ask you, and this is for a reason, can you make sure, and not one, I want to come in to say thank you for this detailed work. Can we make a keep track of the neighborhood focus? Because we don't want members of the community from Ferguson Heights feel you're at Ferguson Heights for all month, and then you only go to Alta Vista for 2 days, or however you do that. So you could keep that to where we can show they've been throughout the whole city, balanced, even, and everyone just feels good.
Yes, sir, but I have this on the system I works that we have, so it is spread it out pretty much, yes.
Questions, council? Any questions, Officer White? One thing I want to share for the benefit of council as well as the residents, it's my understanding that literally the whole city has been circled at least once.
Right.
And this is kind of circling back after giving them 20, 30 days as opposed to the required 10-day notice. And these are just the initial ones who haven't complied.
Yes, sir.
So there were other areas listed, they just corrected whatever the violation
The
was.
problem has been correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Oh, and Councilwoman Williams, was there anything else that you wanted to add to it? Mr. Chair, okay. Public Works, one of the biggest things I was going to do under Public Works, but we've done it under admin, was with the crisp information and that sort of thing. But there was, there was a phone call this morning, actually, with the Texas General Land Office, and for the benefit of the public as well as council, actually it was this afternoon at 3 o'clock. The Texas General Land Office's Community Development and Revitalization Team for Hurricane Harvey and regarding their state action plan, so far they've rolled out, starting today, the multifamily component, where they can apply for assistance with FEMA through the state and that sort of thing. And they're finalizing the single-family residence process, which is still pending, but it's coming pretty soon. And this is for damages from 2016. So FEMA's a little bit behind, but they're here and they're moving, and we're trying to stay on top of that process just to make sure our residents and property owners who are affected stay in touch with that. The other thing is, Councilwoman Williams, you were mentioning an upcoming community meeting workshop. Would you share them with that on this topic with the contact that you made?
Okay, I participated in a workshop done by HGAC, and the person that put on that workshop was Ms. Casper, and it was called Buyouts, Acquisitions, and Elevations Workshop. And from just a conversation with her concerning the flooding in Prairie, first of all, we would need a strategic buyout plan. There is money there, especially for the residents over in Prairie Hills. And that was the main reason why I wanted to attend that meeting, because of the flooding in that area. And they are willing to come here to put on a workshop, first for the mayor and the council. Then they will put a workshop on for the residents out in the community. And basically they have elevation money. They also have the FEMA hazard mitigation programs. They have homeowners, to help homeowners where they would do the shell, and then your insurance will finish the inside. And one of the other things that they also talked about was the way they could possibly build a safeguard retention pond. And it's not just dug out of dirt, it involves concrete and those type of things. And so, like I said, I'm still in contact with her, so we're trying to work out a date. And so as soon as I can get her information, see when she's available to speak with the council, then we'll make arrangements for her to come and speak with the citizens, because there is no cap as far as the money for this program. But if they buy you out, then you definitely cannot go back and repurchase your house or think you're going to stay in your house. Once they buy you out, then the city has to have a plan. If they buy out that whole street, then the city has to have a plan in place for something that will be viable and survive there. And one of the things they suggested in that area, if that's what the residents choose to do, would be some form of a park. Otherwise, if they don't, they are looking at helping residents do elevations, as well as the type of new structure of a retention pond. So again, I will be in contact with her, so as soon as she touches base with me and we can get all these workshops set up and get things done, then I will be in touch with those in the community to make sure that you know when it is, where it is, so you can come and they also will show you what they can offer, how much money they can offer, everything. And so I want to make sure the community knows about it.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think that program is similar to the one we went to, Ms. Dickey and Chief and Judge, where once that buyout takes place, that house basically, for all practical purposes, has to disappear.
Yes.
It has to be, I mean, everything down to the foundation has to go away. They have bought it out so that it can't be, quote unquote, later used by either vagrants or anyone else as a house. And that's why she makes...
Developed either.
Right. That's why she made the comment about like a park or something like that. And typically they do this like we have around the Ruby Street area in floodplains. If it's gonna keep flooding, they're just saying, we'll buy you out